All right, welcome everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'm going to first introduce the members of the committee and the staff. So myself, Kevin Antonitis, I'll just ask the members to go around and raise their hands so we can identify you on the screen. We have Danielle Beck, Adam Mottershead, Dylan Bailey, and Herb Knobes. And for staff here this evening, we have Walter Basic, a planner, and Nancy Simon, our secretary. So I'm just going to read a few things regarding the format of the meeting for you, and then we'll outline general procedures and how we're going to do it. And I think then we put the applicants into the waiting room and call them forward one by one. So first, some words about the live streaming. Members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in silent mode during our committee meeting. Any letters or correspondence are public information. For the purposes of the Zoom meeting, applicants will be placed in the waiting room until your application is heard. The purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard. Following, the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. And at the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decision will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. And to request a copy of the decision, please email the Secretary Treasurer. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the local planning appeal tribunal within 20 days of the mailing of the decision for the consent application and 20 days of making the decision for minor variances. So everyone present here will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions to the chair. Agencies commenting on applications may request certain conditions be imposed, and voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight, or will say otherwise if they haven't, and are familiar with the lands that are subject to the application. First then is the disclosure of interest. Do any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest in the matters or the respect to the applications that are before us this evening? Adam?
Actually, just not an interest. I'm just going to be abstaining from 8/13/21 6 Strathern, as I didn't have a chance to view the property.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? None? Okay. So are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment this evening, Nancy? No? None? All right. So we're going to proceed with the agenda then first. So we've got two applications this evening. So we'll first deal with, actually, before we do, we're just going to approve the minutes. I'm going to call for a motion and a seconder on the minutes of the previous meeting that was held on April 20th, 2021. Do I have a mover and a seconder on that? Danielle? Adam? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, maybe it's easier. Opposed, if any, was carried. Okay, then the first application is the minor variance A1221 10A Shoreline Crescent. So Nancy, will pass it over to you.
Yes, so Walter's just going to adjust the slide here. So this is an application for A12-21 on behalf of Dominica Holdings Limited. The agent is here with us this evening. It's Lindsay Bruce. So this is for the construction of a single family dwelling, and the variance is to permit a lot depth of 27.99 meters, whereas 20 meters is permitted, and also to permit a lot coverage of 18.62% for house and accessory structure, whereas 15% is allowed. Next slide. Oh, sorry. I should also, I forgot the comments here, so I'll just read the comments into the minutes. So the region of Niagara is requesting conditions with respect to archaeological assessment. The NPCA advises that a works permit will be required. Public Works notes that the proposed covered porch encroaches into the 100-year floodplain, and note that further approvals or investigation into the potential impact this would have on the footings Public Works is also requiring a detailed grading plan. Next slide.
I just want to add the first variance is not for lot depth, it's for building depth.
Correct.
So this shows the subject lands, and the proposed house has been superimposed on the lot. You will note that this was once one property. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. And that's it for slides. Lindsay Bruce, the agent, is here to present the application.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nancy. Yeah, and I would just like to second that comment that the first variance is for the dwelling depth, not the lot depth. So you may recall, committee may recall that I was here in March with another application for the property next door. And we're still kind of dealing with those. We want to finalize the plan for that before we come back to committee, but the property that we're dealing with this evening to the west of that is owned by the sister of the neighbor that we were here with before. And so you'll see that the plan is very similar. It's a very similar architectural style. It's been flipped the other way, so the driveways go opposite each other. And so the variances are very similar to what we had before, with the correction of the zoning to be the correct value for the dwelling depth and the lot coverage. The difference on this one is that we have added that detached accessory structure, which has been added into the lot coverage to get that 18%. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, do we have any questions first for the committee members? Just raise your hand if I can see them. Oh, there we go. That's better. Herb?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The address is 10A or 10B?
So this application is 10A, and the one to the east has been determined to be just 10.
Okay, because the other one, when it came through, came in as 10A?
That's correct. There was a correction on it. So originally we thought it was going to be 10A and 10B, and then the township came back and said it's going to be 10 and 10A. So the application for the other one was corrected manually to be 10. And this is in fact 10A, the property to the west. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee members this evening? Dylan?
Sorry, the accessory structure will be used for what? Is it just, or sorry, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, it's like a covered outdoor patio to be next to the amenity space in the backyard.
And you said that was included in the lot coverage calculation.
That's right. It has been.
Okay. Walter, is that standard? I didn't think they did, or did they, if they're sided or they had a roof? Or...
Well, that was the question I had. Is it enclosed?
Well, they haven't finalized the design yet, so we left it in if they do decide to enclose the 3 walls. We spoke to zoning about that and had it added in just in case they do decide to have walls. At the moment, it's not fully designed though.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. I just noticed the commentary from Walter in your report was something about the coverage was similar to the properties to the west or in the neighborhood, I guess. This seems really low, 15%. Is that just because of shoreline and the amount of shoreline area that you've got north of their property, like the sloped area? I guess my question is for Walter on that one. You're on mute. There we go.
There it is there. Why is what was your question? I'm sorry.
My question is 15% seems really low to begin with, like a lot coverage restriction. Was that characteristic of shoreline? And yet in your report, you mentioned that most of them are over that anyways.
Right. I really couldn't tell you specifically why it was originally included in 2014 as that number, but I'm guessing that it would have been the average lot coverage for buildings in the area at the time, which would have included the subject lands, which were subsequently divided into 2 parcels. So as you see, the lands to the west this one was vacant. Can you see my arrow?
Yep.
Okay, so this one was vacant at the time. This one was vacant. There was a house on this lot, this house, and this house. So I'm just assuming that the average of the houses in that section of the street were approximately 15%. So that's why I'm thinking that number came from, or where that number came from.
All right, and was there any other questions from the committee members first? So I take it there's no delegations on this one, or no neighbors have written in, or? Oh, Dylan, sorry, I didn't see that, Dylan, sorry. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's covered in the resolutions about, it talks here about this submitting a detailed grading plan to Public Works, but Nancy mentioned something about footings in the floodplain. Is that a condition that will need to be added, or has this been addressed? That piece I just sort of heard Nancy mention, and I'm just not sure if we need to worry about footings in a floodplain.
Yeah, the first condition that's proposed as written in that was distributed was that the applicant receive NPCA approval for construction of the proposed dwelling. So that would encompass those items.
Thank you, sorry.
Any further questions? If not, then do I have a motion and a seconder on this application as written? Now, whoever makes the motion can add or modify the conditions as proposed or as circulated if you'd like. Danielle? Mover and a seconder? Herb? Danielle, did you wish to read, do you want me to read the conditions, or did you want to, or change them or alter them, or you're in favor as circulated? Maybe we could read them for the applicant. I don't know if they've seen it.
Sorry, Lindsay, have you seen them?
No.
Okay, so I'll paraphrase just very quickly then for you. So there's 3 conditions that have been included in the resolution here. So the 2 variances, I am supportive of passing the motion to approve the 2 variances as circulated. However, I do note that the resolution here does say to permit a lot depth of 27.99. Mr. Chair, I would like to have that amended to say that to permit a dwelling depth, to make sure that that variance is accurately reflected, where 20 meters is permitted, and to permit a lot coverage of 18.62% for house and accessory structure, whereas 15% be allowed, be approved with the following conditions: that an NPCA approval for the construction for the proposed dwelling. I would also like to add accessory structure in there with that as well too, because you will need probably 2 separate permits for those. Condition number 2 would be a stage 1 archaeological assessment to the MHSTCI, because honestly, I'm not going to say that whole long thing because they've changed it a million times in my career, at least now. And for number 3, that the applicant submit a detailed grading plan to the Public Works Department. Lindsay, are you okay with those 3 conditions?
I'd like to just ask, I guess Walter would be the best to ask for the condition number 2 about the stage 1 archaeological. Typically we've done these before, and we've seen them where the lot is not disturbed. Given that there's an existing house there that has been recently demolished, is this something that like we could leave off as a condition, knowing that I'm just not sure that it's necessary? And if it's a condition, is there a way to clear that if we get to a point where staff have determined that it's not required?
Yeah, this before Walter jumps in, it was actually the regional planner that suggested that in their memo, not Walter, but maybe Walter can comment. Is this I haven't seen too many.
Yeah, because it's along the waterfront,
Okay.
there's a higher probability of a find. So it's a standard condition that they ask for.
Okay.
And also, it's the house that was there was the original farmhouse.
Mhm.
before the subdivision was developed. So it probably, the area around the site experienced less disturbance than say the other lots in the subdivision.
Okay, so that wouldn't have been a requirement as part of the demolition of that house then?
No, no.
Okay, okay,
It's usually
okay,
as a condition of development.
perfect. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Okay. So thank
The
you.
other
for
ones I'm
confirming.
okay with.
Yeah, the other three you're okay with. So
Yep.
any other commentary from the committee members on the motion and the seconder with those conditions and modifications?
I'd say as amended. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
If not, then all those in favor say aye or raise your hand for the screen. Opposed, if any, was carried. So there is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding, which you're aware of, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you so much
very
for your
much.
time, committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Hey, Lindsay.
Bye.
All right, so the next application, do we have them here yet? There they are. So the next application, we'll have Nancy go through and the correspondence, if any.
Yes, this is an application 813-21 on behalf of Brett Brewer and Sarah Smith. It's for 6 Stratford Avenue for construction of a single-family dwelling. It's to permit.
Kevin, could you mute, please?
Sorry, Kevin, can you mute? Yeah.
Sorry,
And Nancy,
sorry,
can you
sorry.
restart?
Can you start
Sorry.
over? Yeah.
Can everyone hear me clearly? So this is an application A13-21 on behalf of Brad Brewer and Sarah Smith. It's for 6 Strathern Avenue. It's for construction of a single-family dwelling. It's to permit a lot coverage of 27.5%, whereas 25% is permitted, and to permit a front yard setback of 8.23 meters, whereas 11.3 meters is permitted. With respect to correspondence, the region of Niagara had no comments. The Public Works Department notes that they will require a detailed grading plan. And that is it for comments. So here's the slide. This shows the location of the property, and the proposed house is superimposed on it. Next slide. This is so the front yard is actually William Street. This is the exterior side yard on Strathern, but the front elevation of the house will face Strathern, and this side will be a garage. So the variance is actually for the front yard on William Street. Next slide. This is a floor plan showing, I believe, the second floor plan, second story of the house. As there was some questions today about the garage, so the applicant submitted that. This is a picture submitted by the applicant. I believe this is another structure that's already under construction there, and a similar garage protrusion. The applicants are here to give a presentation.
Okay, where's the applicant? Is that Brad or Sarah?
Yeah, that's both of us.
Okay, would you like to make some comments or do a presentation for us?
Yes, sorry, I didn't, no formal presentation.
No,
I
that's
thought-
fine. That's fine. It's informal.
Yeah, no, it was just, thank you for taking our application here, and just wanted to see if, what the thoughts are. Obviously, it's minor in nature. Fits with the rest of the neighborhood and the streetscape. William Street, the front yard setbacks on William Street are 7.8 to 11.3, so they jag in and out the whole way down the road. Appropriate for development for the land, and it meets the intent of the official plan. So we're hoping that these two are approved, and we can move ahead with our building permit.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the committee members first? Herb, don't forget you're on mute.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was just wondering, it looks like the parking or the garage is going to be on William Street, but the garage is close to Strathern, and the driveway is going to be very close to the intersection. Has the Public Works looked at that or addressed that issue?
I can answer that. They have no concerns with respect to the driveway location.
Okay, because it is going to be very close to the intersection. Usually there's a definite setback for that. Usually it's 15 meters or so. They can't be within that distance of the intersection. But if they've looked at it, that's up to them.
So the driveway location, it's actually the
Face.
physical road.
It'll face Williams.
Yes, I understand. So the driveway is
Yeah.
approximately here.
So the
Right there.
distance, yeah.
So the actual physical road is still quite a ways. So the proposed setback from William is, I believe it's 7 meters or 6 meters. And then there's another 5.5 meters to the actual physical road. So there's a setback of at least 11 meters to the driveway from Strathern Avenue.
Yeah, usually it's a little bit more than that, but if they don't have any issues with it, that's all my concern is.
Thank you, Herb. Anybody? I think somebody else had their hand up. Was it Dylan? No? No other questions or comments? Oh, Danielle?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicants. I just had some concerns about, I guess, the extent of the variances that were being requested with only originally one elevation provided. And then it was myself actually who had requested for some further information today and a second floor plan be provided. At this time, personally, I don't feel like I have enough information to be able to provide a decision on the application. I don't think I have an appropriate enough site plan to show the location of the driveway and the interaction of it of the house with the street, as well as that building facade and the elevation in relation to William Street and the 3 meter request or relief that you are requesting along that elevation and that street frontage. Just so at this time for my vote is going to actually, I would be putting in a request to defer the application just so for some further information at this time, so that the committee could have a full or more holistic view to be able to have a better idea of what those variances and the impacts they are going to have on that corner lot. So to you, Mr. Chair, I guess when a motion is prepared.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Anybody else, or would the applicant like to respond? I guess the request for the setback from 11 down to 8, I'm assuming it's maintaining the existing building line along William Street with the new structure and the existing. Can we flip to that one slide with I think it was the applicant that submitted it, taken from Strathern, I'm assuming, looking down in front of the new structure. So I'm assuming your building, the proposed building, is going to be in line with that front. This doesn't show the new building superimposed next door, but that one. So where would your new building be in relation to this new building right immediately to your, I guess, to the east?
To the east, yeah. So that building to the east is approximately, I believe, 11.3 or 11.1 from the property line. The houses down further go into about 7.7 or 7.8. And yeah, ours would be in a little bit from that one.
So is this under the same ownership? Like, is it yourselves as well, or is it a different owner?
No, different owner.
And they've been circulated this, I'm assuming, or you've had meetings with them. They don't have any comments or questions or concerns on this?
It's been circulated. I have not had comments with the owner of that house. I have in the past, but not about this.
Right. Any other comments to?
I can add to that, Mr. Chair. The house immediately east of the subject lands was required to be constructed 11.3 meters from the front lot line because the the neighboring house beside it was that setback. So that's what the zoning bylaw requires. So they built it in accordance with the zoning setback requirement. As the applicant has noted, the buildings that are further down the street are actually closer than these two dwellings. But they don't factor into the zoning standard. So we don't take an average of all of the houses on the street. We just take the average, or we just take the setback of the house that's next door if there's only one abutting house.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions, Dylan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and to Walter, I'm not sure I quite understood what you said. I'm sorry. So the house that's already built is required to be at the same depth as the neighbor, but this new house being built does not. And is that because the address is on Strathern and not on William? Is that, am I confusing the issue here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I apologize that maybe I didn't explain that very well. I might have used this image probably as a better reference. So as you see, the house that's immediately, or the property that's immediately next door to the subject lands. So this illustrates where the proposed building is, right here, the blue. The house that's right next door to this site is built exactly in line with this house. So it's a little bit farther away from the street than the house that's next door to that, right? And unfortunately, maybe you can see the next one. So the next one's even closer, right? So as the applicant has noted, although this one is closer than what the zoning requires, which is 11.3 meters, because the house next door is 11.3. So the zoning setback changes depending on what your neighbor's setback is, right? So the neighbor's setback is 11.3, but it doesn't take into account the setback of the other houses on the street. So that's what the purpose of a minor variance is. So if because the zoning doesn't take everything into account, this is an opportunity for the committee to consider whether or not the location of the proposed building, although it doesn't meet the zoning standard, is it okay on the street? So our conclusion was that because there are other houses on the street that are actually closer to the street, William, than the proposed building, that it was appropriate. And the zoning setback is there only because the neighboring house is at 11.3 meters. So I hope that explains it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's not the easiest to understand, Dylan, because there was no house on the other side to do an average line, right? So they had to maintain this first house to the east at the setback that was required. But now that there's a new one there, they're requesting the variance, but I guess they could have requested the variance the first go around too on the one next door. But I'm always reticent to turn something down or defer it or make an applicant wait when no neighbors are out and planning in support of it. I find that's a tough burden to place on applicant who's come forward with a lot of the plans and information. Public Works has commented on it or have not commented on it, don't have concern with it. Planning's in support of it. I'm really hesitant to delay this applicant any further, just because we think we need more information. To Danielle's point, with all due respect, I think it's, if the neighbors were out and we're quite concerned, and on this one there was quite a uproar. I know when the lots were created, I remember that meeting wasn't the most pleasant. I think it went back a few times, and they're obviously not out this time, and maybe they've gotten used to the fact, and there's one house there. The most impact would be the house immediately to the east, and they're not here. They would be the most impacted, in my opinion. So I don't have a problem with this variance. I think there's enough information to go on, and we've got staff report to go on. So I would be supporting the application or the motion.
And the other thing to Danielle's question with regard to elevations, yeah, we understand that we don't have elevations of the dwellings, but if you look at the the floor plans, which are available. The ground floor plan is quite large, but the second floor plan, as you see, is at the back of the house. So the overlap is approximately here, like this and like this, right? So the front of the house facing William Street will be 1 story. And the 2-story portion of the building is set quite a ways back from the street itself. So that's another factor that played into our recommendation.
Okay, Dylan had his hand up. Dylan?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Is it, so I guess immediately to the, is it south, the next door neighbor on William? I see that there is a house being built there. I'm assuming that the setback
East.
would be in line with
One here?
sorry, on Strathern, I apologize. So this,
Strathern.
yeah, down, yep, yeah, there. So there's a foundation I see being built when I did the site visit. So I'm assuming that the setback would be the same or in line with what that individual or what that property is, or within the range, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the setback for the house on Strathern
Yeah.
is dependent on what the front yards are of the abutting properties.
Okay.
Okay, the abutting properties to the north doesn't have a neighboring front yard, it's a side yard. And the abutting property to the south doesn't have a front yard because the front yard for that property is on Main Street.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Setback, the minimum setback, front yard setback for the Strathern lot, frontage lot, was 4.5 meters.
Thank you for the education as well.
No problem. Anybody else? Herb?
Mr. Chair, through you, is there any reason that I'm still having difficulties with that garage and the driveway being that close to Strathern? And is there any reason that the garage could not be moved to the other side of the house, further to the east of the house? It would change your floor plans in that, but I'm just asking, has that been considered?
Brad, did you want to respond to that, or Sarah?
I can respond. Yeah, and I apologize for the not having the that would be the north elevation. Just timing wise with our architect has been a struggle, and everybody being busy. But as for the driveway, yes, we could. We've gone through quite a bit of design and quite a bit of work with our architect. We did start with a single story, and we've gone back and forth for literally, I don't know, 8 months, 10 months. Like, it's been a long process so far, and we appreciate all the work Walter and his staff have done to get us to this point. But to switch it again is a lot of work. I can suggest, if you want us to move that driveway over a little bit, we could put it on a little bit of a curve there and get it a couple meters further away from Strathern. But my opinion only, but Strathern and William are not very busy. I've been down there quite a bit. I drive by probably 2-3 times a week because I work in Vaughan, and I drive by all the time, and there's not a lot of traffic down there. That's just my opinion, that being a little bit closer to that intersection would not hurt us at all. But if it's your recommendations, then yeah, that's I don't have any other comments on that. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that too. And I would agree, it's a very quiet street. And again, I defer to Public Works if they're not commenting or concerned about it. It's not on Main Street, for an example, or a busy intersection. Like we've had one on Livingston and Casablanca, for example, and they've actually got 2 driveways. But I wouldn't be concerned about this one at all.
Sarah's an exceptional driver as well.
And to your comment, I think I saw Regis. I mean, is it Regis? Yeah, well, good luck getting anything out of him. No, I know I shouldn't slag him, but we dealt with him on our edition 3 years ago, and I can feel your pain
he's done 3 houses for me, so I know, but it's just it's the timing, and everybody's swamped right now, and actually lumber prices are outrageous, so I don't know what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do this, but it's strange times, that's for sure.
All right, any other questions or comment, Danielle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. To the applicant, I do really appreciate, and I'm honestly, I was just scrolling through all the correspondence that I could see that you have had with staff since January. And Sarah, kudos to you for the patience that you have had. Because I'll be honest, I'm generally the staff on the other side of it, working with the applicants. So I can understand your frustration. I do have the elevation from the other side. Just as a committee member, it would have been nice to have had the north elevation. That is the side that you're asking relief from. It would have been nice to see that side of the house that is being impacted, and how that interface is going to work along William. When I'm driving, sorry, I'm sitting outside and I have a fly that seems to be going up, trying to go up my nose right now, so I apologize. Driving along William, it looks like the majority of the houses are bungalows or 1.5 stories or side splits. Having this double car garage almost like pushed to the street with a setback of a 2nd story right at the corner with a reduced setback. I'm just thinking visually it's going to look monstrous right at that corner. Yes, I understand it's a low traffic corner. I honestly don't think I saw anybody out when I drove by on the weekend, and we had a fantastic weekend. So that was my reason for deferral, was just for the lack of information, but I completely understand what Kevin is saying as the chair. There is nobody out in opposition. Staff is in supportive of this. So I'm going to retract my idea for deferral. If there is a motion to approve this application, I would be supportive of that and voting in favor of that as well too. So I just wanted to add some clarification. If you understand, if there's a swing vote later on, that is why. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? If not, then, and there's no delegations, so do I have a motion or mover and a seconder on this as the resolution as presented? Anyone? Dylan? Moved by Dylan, seconder? Any seconders? I'll second it then to get it on the floor. Any further discussion?
Mr.
So
Chair.
I'll read it for you first. Resolve that submission A1321 to permit a lot coverage of 27.5%, whereas 25% is permitted, and to permit a front yard setback of 8.23 meters, whereas 11.3 meters is required. Be granted, I'm assuming.
Through you, Mr. Chair, was there a condition about a detailed grading plan or no on this one?
Not on this one, no.
No? Okay. I
Right,
thought
Walter, am I correct? I didn't see it. It's not written in the resolution.
No, good detailed grading plans are a requirement of every building permit.
Oh,
It's redundant to ask it as a condition of a minor variance anyway. So that's my opinion.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion then to approve? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, if any? Motion was carried, so there is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. And thanks for coming out this evening.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
And I believe that's it. Nancy?